Welcome to The Explainer. We hear all this buzz about technologies like ChatGPT, and it feels like magic, right? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain and uncover the surprisingly simple yet incredibly powerful core concept that makes it all tick. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the AI's simple secret. Then, we'll look at how it actually learns the language game. After that, we'll explore how it goes from one word to building entire worlds. We'll cover its powers and its pitfalls. And finally, we'll dig into why this one idea of prediction is so incredibly powerful.
All right, first up, let's get right to it. What is this simple secret? Let's unveil that core idea.
Okay, so what if I told you that at the heart of the most complex AI, there's a surprisingly simple secret? It really might sound too simple to be true, but at their core, these large language models that are changing our world, they're just incredibly advanced prediction machines. They aren't thinking like we do, they're calculating. And this is the key, right here. It all just boils down to one thing, making a highly educated statistical guess about the very next word in a sentence. Yeah, that's it. That's the engine driving this whole revolution. Okay, let's make this real. Imagine you give the AI this phrase, the cat is on the... What it does next is pretty wild. It runs the numbers. Based on all the text it's ever seen, the word mat is by far the most probable next word. It's not thinking about cats or mats. It's just predicting the most statistically likely outcome. Okay, that's the what. But how? How does a machine get so ridiculously good at this prediction game? Let's dive into that. Well, to learn the game, the model first has to read. And when I say read, I mean it has to read everything. We're talking a colossal library of human-written text. Books, articles, websites, you name it. This is how it absorbs grammar, facts, and all the subtle relationships between words and ideas. And this whole learning process, it's basically a relentless feedback loop. The AI analyzes a sentence, it predicts the next word, and then, this is the important part, it checks its answer against the real deal. If it's wrong, it tweaks itself just a little bit to do better next time. Now imagine doing that billions and billions of times. You end up with an incredibly powerful prediction engine. All right, this is where things start to feel like actual magic. How does simply predicting one word at a time lead to, creating entire worlds of text? So it starts with your prompt. The model looks at this phrase, once upon a time there was a, and it just predicts the most likely next word. Could be king, could be castle, but in this case, it predicts the word small. Now here's the trick. It takes that whole new phrase, once upon a time there was a small, and uses that as the new input to predict the next word, village. It just keeps adding its own predictions to the chain, building out these incredibly coherent sentences and entire paragraphs, one single word at a time. And this same exact logic applies to something like answering a question. When you ask it, what is the capital of France? It's not looking up the answer in some encyclopedia. Nope. It's just predicting the sequence of words that statistically is the most likely and correct way to complete that question. And of course, the most probable completion is the capital of France is Paris. It's the exact same game for translation too. The model just predicts the next word in, say, French, using the English sentence as its starting context. It's still just a prediction task, but now the context has to jump across a language barrier. Pretty amazing. Okay, so if this whole thing really just boils down to prediction, that's got to have some major implications, right? Let's talk about what this makes the AI really good at, and just as importantly, what it's really bad at. And this is a perfect example of its power. When it sees the word bank, it uses the surrounding words, the context, to figure out what you mean. It's seen patterns where withdraw money is linked to a financial bank, and patterns where river is linked to a riverbank. It's not understanding, it's just pattern matching on a massive scale. So you can see why it excels at these kinds of things. Because it's literally built to find patterns. It gets really good at capturing deep context, dealing with ambiguous words, and just applying its knowledge to a huge range of topics, from writing poetry to explaining complex technical ideas. But, and this is a huge but, we have to remember the limits. The model doesn't truly understand anything. It's a master mimic, a pattern matcher. And think about it, because every word depends on the one before it, one little mistake early on can snowball, sending the whole response spiraling into complete nonsense. So that begs the question, right? If the core idea is so simple, why is it so incredibly powerful? Let's get into the scalable secret to its success. The absolute genius of this whole approach really comes down to this. First, it's scalable. The more data and computing power you throw at it, the better it gets. Simple. And second, it's unbelievably versatile. That same core skill of predicting the next word, you can apply it to writing computer code, translating languages, summarizing a boring report, you name it. And maybe this is the most mind-bending part of all. The AI isn't explicitly taught the rules of grammar or logic. It's not like a student memorizing a textbook. By just forcing it to get better and better at predicting the next word, it has to implicitly figure out all that stuff on its own. It learns to sound intelligent because it's so good at mimicking the patterns of text that was written by intelligent humans. And that's the thought I want to leave you with. This ridiculously simple mechanism, just predicting the next word, has turned out to be astonishingly powerful. And it raises some really deep questions, not just about technology, but about us, about the very patterns in our own language, our own logic, and maybe even our own intelligence. Something to think about. Thanks for joining us.